Sometimes when characters get together in superhero movies, it can feel a little bit like they're only together because the comics say so. Regardless of whether or not it feels right for the story, or if there's even any discernible chemistry between the actors, superhero films can push romances between characters that don't really fit in this new paradigm. When Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, and Vision, aka the Vision, started making the comic book inspired googly eyes at each other, I wasn't convinced by these two as a pairing at all. But particularly as Wanda's story developed following Age of Ultron, I found myself rooting for this romance. Wanda and Vision became intertwined in some of the most pivotal moments, not to mention failings, of the Avengers. As two of the most powerful regular members of the team, they are no strangers to conflict and catastrophe. These antagonistic forces push against their relationship, but it is their struggles through them that ultimately see their strongest bonds forged. Unlike most superhero movie romances, their love is the focal point of everything that happens to them. It is tested directly by the central conflicts of each respective movie, whether it be the Sokovia Accords or the Infinity Stones. Their love is marked by tragedy and trauma, featuring lasting consequences.
You didn't see that coming.
In Age of Ultron, neither Wanda nor Vision interact with each other a whole lot, but it's no mistake that their MCU origins are explored in the same movie. When the android is the one to go back and save Wanda after everyone else has already gone, their fates become bound together. Wanda's most personal connection in the movie is with her twin brother Pietro. They both share the trauma of losing their parents to Stark's bombs, and start off sympathising with Ultron's objectives. It was smart to make the characters the byproduct of an Infinity Gem, cleverly sidestepping their mutant origins, but more importantly giving them a dark and intriguing backstory.
What kind of monster would let a German scientist experiment on them to protect their country?
After being orphaned, destitute, and the victim of brutal and deceptive experiments, Wanda couldn't lose much more, but she does. Up to now, Wanda's brother was her world, the only semblance of normality from her old life before the bombs fell. The last vestige of her mother and father lay in Pietro's eyes. He's also the only one that could share in the pain of being put through Strucker's torturous experiments. For him to die in a flash and leave her to fend for herself in this strange new world after everything she has already lost, well, it's a pain too deep for Wanda to bear. I liked the decision to kill off Quicksilver because it allowed Wanda to move beyond being merely one half of a superhero image. From here on out, Wanda could develop free from the shadow of her brother, which was smart because her personality and powers had far more juicy storytelling potential. Placed into this strange new Avenging world alone meant forming an ongoing bond with Hawkeye and Vision, as well as opening the door to explore the ramifications of her unlimited power. She gets her vengeance on Ultron by literally ripping his heart out, but she's not the only character that kills the Metal Man.
They're doomed.
Yes.
In Vision's first truly gripping scene, the character proves that he has the warmth and capacity to live amongst the human race.
But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Wanda kills for revenge, Vision kills out of kindness. Both characters self-actualise, breaking free from the dogma of their overseers and deciding upon their own paths.
But if you step out that door, you are an Avenger.
With Age of Ultron introducing, if not nurturing, the idea of Wanda and Vision as a couple, it was left to the following year's big MCU release, Captain America Civil War, to pick up the slack. This was a movie that had an awful lot going on already, so what little we get of Wanda and Vision's relationship was brief but had to be pivotal. Even in Cap's own movie, the romantic subplot was underserved, its only real payoff being this fantastic gag.
Ooh la la.
We get a bit more texture to their dynamic here and gain a deeper understanding of their shared fears surrounding power and control. They were both born in some way by the Mind Stone, they do not understand it, nor can they comprehend the true limits of their abilities. The only Avengers that really know that fear outside of perhaps Bruce Banner are each other.
I wish to understand it. The more I do, the less it controls me.
Wanda finds herself under house arrest for machinations going on beyond her control by people claiming to have her best interests at heart, and Vision is guarding her escape. Clint breaks into the compound to rescue her, but try as hard as he might, he cannot overpower Vision.
Clint, you can't overpower me.
See? Vision had earlier stated that he wanted people to see her as he does, but he also forces her into a situation where she has to retaliate to save her friend. Using her power offensively for the first time since the accidental explosion in Lagos, Wanda decides she is going to do what is right by her, rather than what men in high towers think should be done. She is not a weapon of mass destruction, and she doesn't need to lock herself away to keep others safe. She's a superhero.
I can't control their fear, only my own.
Scarlet Witch's woes are the perfect counterweight to Vision's shortcomings. Vision tries to help her through logic. He processes her problems like a computer, coming out cold, and struggles to understand why their current course of action has led to this outcome. He cannot understand why after Strucker, after Ultron, after Stark, Wanda is sick of control. Wanda's response to this comes out in a stunning moment of power as she pulls Vision down to the floor using telekinesis, trapping him. This is a choice rooted in catharsis, a defiant act and a clear message in their relationship that they must stand as equals. Vision has forgotten the human element in trying to prevent catastrophe. He pays the price for this on even darker terms at the remainder of the airport battle. He stops at nothing to preserve the status quo and ends up miscalculating in a horrifying way, almost killing James Rhodes. Wanda is imprisoned behind a straitjacket and the Avengers are disassembled. By the end of Civil War, their relationship had faced true conflict, and the wounds had yet to mend. This placed us in an interesting position going into their next appearance. By the time we came to Infinity War, I was charmed by both characters, but I wasn't so much won over by them. I found them entertaining, but they hadn't had the chance to shine like some of the other leading characters in the Earthbound MCU stories like Cap and Tony. That all changed here. We are reunited with the pair, stealing a romantic night away from the chaotic and fractured time the Avengers find themselves in. But hey, at least they can still get a deep fried kebab. Vision has clearly developed emotionally, and it certainly helps to sell the viewer on their chemistry when Bettany gets to act without a wall of makeup plastered over his face. I like that they don't waste any time having the two angry at the events of Civil War. They both knew they'd screwed up, time has passed, and the story can focus on showing us how close they have grown before far loftier conflicts are introduced. Just like that, Vision is wiped off the board for the rest of the movie. Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive display a real show of force against two of the most powerful MCU heroes, and they don't hold back. I love the sound design here when Corvus smacks the end of his blade down upon Vision's head. The Edinburgh sequence, yes, Edinburgh, sorry about that last time, and I think the Glasgow sequence is probably my favourite action scene with Scarlet Witch because she finally gets to flex her action chops in a visceral way. Up until this point, Wanda was often relegated to doing the heavy lifting in the fight, the literal heavy lifting, whilst her counterparts do the figurative heavy lifting, i.e. getting all the good action beats and hand-to-hand goodness. She rarely gets the chance to go toe-to-toe with anyone the same way a character like Cap does, but here Proxima Midnight gets up close and personal several times over. It's a really neat way of depicting her powers, using telekinesis to block Proxima's attacks more akin to a hand-to-hand parry. This scene proves that you can do way more exciting things with a ranged elemental type character than the X-Men movies would have you believe. Vision puts up a fight, but the impetus is all on Wanda to save him. It's a nice little added dimension to the fight to see Wanda contend with fighting off her foes while skillfully making sure Vision isn't hurt as he is pulled left and right. I like that Infinity War makes the male character the damsel in distress, whilst our female hero is forced to take charge. It says to me that Marvel cares about their female characters when they do something like this, without patting themselves on the back about it, unlike other moments. In spite of putting up a good fight against two of Thanos' most powerful henchmen, Wanda loses. Saved in the nick of time by Avenging veterans Cap, Widow and the Falcon, the pair leave this scene with the odds stacked against them. Vision is placed in a very vulnerable position. Not only is there a price on his head for his head, he can't really rely on his incredible power either. From here on out until the end of the movie, Vision is in need of saving. The movie frames Vision's stone conundrum like something that will be fixed with some technobabble and whimsy.
I'm sure you did your best.
But the reality very quickly turns hopeless when Vision proclaims,
We are out of time. It shouldn't be you, but it is.
how many times has Wanda had to think this? How many more times must she be forced to lose someone she loves? Except this time, it's even worse, because Wanda has to do the deed herself, unleashing all of her power on the Infinity Stone in a desperate bid to kill it before Thanos reaches them. It's a great moment of tension, built upon the emotional foundation of the movie, and it leads to one of the most awesome Cap moments of all time. Yeah, he's the last one standing in the way of Thanos, almost 3 years on, and this sequence still kills. This is quite possibly one of the best deaths in the MCU. Why? Well, it might not be the most emotional, but what I like about this is how it rewrites the hero death rulebook. Oftentimes when a hero character dies, it is a moment they have autonomy over. They often choose to sacrifice themselves, and it is a triumphant, if bittersweet moment. This does happen, the first time Vision dies. He gets to say the L word, he dies on his own terms, and he gets to guide Wanda through it all the way for support. In an earlier scene, Corvus Glaive had mocked Vision for his mortality.
But you're dying like any man.
But here, dying like a man, a true flesh and blood human being, brings Vision's conversation with Ultron full circle. He dies knowing that he sacrificed himself to save his friends and the love of his life. Wanda, left in tatters after performing one of the most traumatic acts in the series, is left powerless to stop Thanos buying himself some more time. Thanos lifts Vision up by the neck the same way he did to Loki, but this time he doesn't even pay the moment the credence it deserves. Devoid of any empathy, as he gazes into the android's eyes, Thanos merely pinches the stone out of his head, murdering Vision in cold blood. No hero sacrifice, no saving the day, no consoling Wanda. Vision is forced to witness the fruit of his failure and dies assuming Thanos completed his mission. The corpse is tossed aside and Vision becomes a grey-white husk of his former self, referencing a classic comic book costume in an affecting way seldom seen on the big screen. Wanda later turns to dust, holding him, and with nothing left to lose, she quietly accepts her fate. I think Peter's death is a tearjerker, but there's something so much more poignant and sad in watching Wanda lose that fire in her heart. Endgame is marked by Wanda and Vision's absence, although the Scarlet Witch's return ushers in an awesome cathartic payoff.
You took everything from me.
Landing in front of the mighty Thanos, the witch is out for blood.
I don't even know who you are.
Ignorance is not an excuse. Wanda picks up Thanos with all the same care and respect he gave her love, and she systematically begins pulling him and his armour apart like taffy. She makes the most powerful being in the universe understand what real power is. Although there is something bittersweet in knowing that no matter how much pain she can inflict upon Thanos, he is not the Thanos. He's not the one that knowingly committed cold-blooded murder before her very eyes. This is not the Thanos that killed Vision, and it never will be. Wanda never gets to avenge Vision, she merely finds a way to use that pain and put it into something heroic. She very nearly succeeds in destroying this Thanos all by herself, and he is forced to make a sacrifice play just to stop himself from being torn apart.
Just do it!
After having multiple instances across the MCU where Wanda was made to feel guilty or responsible for using her powers for good, here she is allowed to take off the restraints. Wanda the Force Unleashed, motherfuckers. There's also this moment, but I've spoken about this to death, both good and bad. If you want my take on it, I would recommend The Boys Go to the Movies, How the Boys Lampoon Superhero Cinema, a video I did on Season 2 of The Boys for Amazon Prime Video UK. There will be a link in the description. Endgame surprisingly didn't bring Vision back. Even though we now know he will return in some capacity in the upcoming Disney Plus series, I'm glad that they held off. It meant that Wanda wasn't given a magical reset button on her journey. She had to take a moment to breathe and face the reality that the world must go on. Remembering who we have lost, letting time step in to heal those wounds, it's an essential part of life.
You know, I wish there was a way that I could let her know that we won. We did it.
She knows. We both do.
Of course, that's just that reality. We know that WandaVision is finally going to see Wanda's Vision's return, crafting new tangible realities and possibly even Vision himself. I'm excited to see the MCU face its biggest criticism head on. What better way to break up the homogeneity of the franchise by opting to tell an 8-hour miniseries going through every single style of American sitcom right up to the present. And that's just the big sell. I'm expecting this to get way darker and trippier and just plain weird.
Why would you think that?
Because you are.
Will Vision make WandaVision his comeback appearance, or is this really more of an extended epilogue to his Infinity War days? I'm not convinced the latter is such a good idea. Resurrections are always messy, and I really do prefer it if characters stay dead. But if you're going to do the rigmarole anyway, if you're going to cheat death in the first place through some sort of science fiction fantasy plot device, what is the use in killing them off again? It's one thing to undo a death by bringing someone back, but it's another thing entirely to negate their death with yet another narrative death. I know what you're thinking, but we don't know if Vision is even real in WandaVision, he's probably just a figment of Wanda's imagination. To that I say, the how doesn't really matter. If Vision is standing there, flesh and blood, lines being delivered by the sophisticated charms of Mr. Paul Bettany, if he has an arc and an integral place in the story, he's not dead.
He's not dead.
From a narrative standpoint, he is doing all the things he's doing when he's alive in the previous movies. They've just given his existence a different title and expanded the definition of alive. In which case, you bring Vision back, bring him back for good. Wonder Woman 1984 has already proven that it's weird to resurrect a character for an extended cameo. I loved Steve Trevor's romance with Diana, but I left 1984 wondering if this story was better left in the first movie when all was said and done. Bringing Steve back, only for him to disappear an hour later, is more exhausting than it's worth. I thought it was odd for the film to go to all the trouble of bringing back a character if you're just going to keep them dead. I recognise Steve's significance for Diana and the whole Dreamstone wishing concept, but it just seems cruel and ultimately unnecessary for me. It's morbid to think that Steve Trevor had this brief trip to the future only to knowingly experience death again. It's so messy. I would hate for the same thing to happen to Vision. I do think that Vision is the weak link of the relationship when all is said and done. Where Wanda has been given impetus to grow, Vision has sometimes felt restricted to being a plot device. When his scenes work well, they often only work well because of how his conflicts affect Wanda. It would be disingenuous to say he's a flat character, but his storyline enhances Wanda's, not the other way around. He's yet to really get much to chew on, and I think it would be a shame if Bettany finishes the role without proving that he's one of the most talented actors to be cast in the MCU. Vision has got plenty of fire left in him, and there's still so many stories we can tell. The vision of the comic books has still yet to be fully realised, and Bettany has the chops to do far more. If Marvel doesn't, well, they will pay the price for their lack of vision. Wanda is going to become Doctor Strange's apprentice and will have the honour of being directed by superhero cinema royalty, Sam Raimi. Who knows where she will go from there, but I can only hope that this fantastic superhero character continues to garner more and more of the spotlight. She's had an interesting journey in the MCU so far, and with the old guard gone, it's time for the Scarlet Witch to step up and become one of the franchise's premier heroes. Here's hoping WandaVision delivers. If you're watching this post the release of WandaVision and you'd like to know if I dug it, there will be full reviews of each episode on the Full Fat Podcast channel as the episodes arrive each week on Disney+. The link will be in the description and the pinned comment. I'm also currently reviewing every single episode of the Clone Wars on the podcast, so if you want to check those out, you can find them every week on the Full Fat Podcast YouTube channel. Hi guys, Matt here. Thank you for watching another Full Fat video. Don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell so you know when a new video drops. If you'd like to get in touch with me, why not follow me on Twitter at FullFatVideos or on Instagram at full_fat_videos. A big personal thank you to our Full Fat tier patrons, Dr. Chike, Jax Merrick and Cyrus Solker. Your ongoing support keeps the lights on. Until next time, keep it full fat.